On the day of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, I still remember where I was and what I was doing. I was a junior in high school in Chicago, and that morning, I had woken up late for school. I showered, got dressed, and hopped into my mom's 2001 Buick Rendezvous. Driving myself to school, I'd often sometimes choose a CD to pop into the CD player and blast the music with the windows half down, but that day I didn't have the time or the thought process to make it a concern. So I just turned on the radio and listened to whatever caught my ear. It was around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and all on the radio stations where they would normally be playing music was instead news. All of the radio hosts were speaking about a plane that crashed into a skyscraper in New York City. At the time the first plane hit, everyone thought it was a freak accident caused by a terrible pilot. And that's what I thought as I turned off the car and entered school. By second period, nearly all the classrooms had their television sets on the news stations. A second plane hit, and it was intentional.
Hi babe, my phone. Oh my God!
Oh my God!
That looks like a second plane.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit. Right. Oh my God! Another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it.
Oh my goodness! There's another one.
It seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness! Now it's obvious. I think.
As a black teenager living in Chicago, surrounded by poverty, gangs, drugs, and teenage pregnancy, but being educated by some of the brightest, most caring, and underpaid people in the city, the word terrorism was never mentioned in all of my 11 years of school up to that point. Sure, we learned about what the Japanese did at Pearl Harbor, but the history books, at least not ours, ever called them terrorists. Nor did they call the bombings terrorism. My teachers and the history books we were learning from simply called it an attack.
The attack yesterday has caused severe damage. The people of the United States have already formed their opinions and well understand the implications.
From September 11, 2001 to the present, I consumed myself with what had occurred. Since I was 10, my mother tried to encourage me to watch the news, and even going into my teens, I saw no value in the nightly news. I was more concerned with my 3 G's, my guys, grades, and girls. But 9/11 truly on a fundamental level transformed me and the way I was thinking. Gradually, at first, and as I went deeper, gained more knowledge, and learned more by venturing into the rabbit hole. With the creation of YouTube and all those damn Illuminati, reptilian, Alex Jones, David Icke videos, my world was spinning and spinning and turned upside down. Everything I've ever been told, everything I've ever not been told. Oh my God, and we live in a matrix too. I was going through it, man. But I wasn't the only one. America was going through it, and by proxy the world. If America is hurting or upset, the rest of the world will have a bad day. Talks of war, Al-Qaeda, Saddam, Bin Laden, nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, Arabs, Muslims, sleeper cells. Man, it was crazy. At least for those of us who became woke to the knowledge of secret societies, oaths, agreements, and organizations too. Me being someone consuming conspiracy stuff day in and day out, found there was a group of people who managed to see right through the haze of confusion in many ways. People who were almost able to see the future, and those who didn't allow fear and the government color-coded terrorist threat levels to frighten them. These people were brave, smart, diligent, and tough, dare I say relentless. In a time where most Americans were blinded by patriotism and vengeance, this group of folks was still bucking the system at a very dangerous time when everyone and anyone could be considered a terrorist. Sure, the majority of them had the complexion for the protection, but it's the things they were exposing. I don't think that would have even saved them. I even joined, and I'm happy I did. We were headed by a leader who never claimed to be a leader of anything or anyone. He certainly had all the qualities of one, and honestly, if you called him or us crazy, you wouldn't be that far off the mark. We were truth-telling, bumper sticker having, fluoride and tap water avoiding truthers. Info warriors, to be exact, is what we were called. Alex Jones was the charismatic, passionate, and at times eccentric figurehead. People can say what they want about Alex Jones, especially these days. I don't watch InfoWars anymore. Not anything to do with Alex or his information, simply because he's blacklisted everywhere. And I've shifted my focus a little bit, which is why you're watching our video under our company banner, No Names Media, which focuses on true crimes. I say all of this to give context to a point. With the events of 9/11, the sweeping reforms Congress implemented during America's time of fear, patriotism, and confusion, Alex Jones was the bravest man in the room who took the focus away from do whatever the government says to question everything. And damn it, I'm glad he was a voice of dissent and suspicion for me and so many others. A movement that already existed, but whose existence was seemingly unnecessary before 9/11, were the sovereign citizens. A sovereign citizen, according to the FBI, are anti-government extremists who believe that even though they physically reside in America, they are separate or sovereign from the United States. Sovereign citizens typically either verbally or actively avoid participating in many things others never think twice about or question, such as acquiring a driver's license to drive, purchasing car insurance, paying taxes, or even going to court. Even though you may find someone who claims to be a sovereign citizen, the degree of what someone refuses to participate in governmental required activities can vary greatly. But the sentiment of government mistrust is the prevailing fundamental causation for what they do or refuse to do. Now let me introduce you to the star of this episode, the one and only Korryn Gaines. At 23 years old, Korryn had youth, beauty, and intelligence in her back pocket tighter than a stuffed wallet. What would make such a vibrant, attractive young woman with a smart and well-behaved 5-year-old son, a supernova of a 1-year-old daughter, and a supportive fiance just crack? Believe it or not, some news outlets attributed her actions that tragic day to lead poisoning. Scientists have learned that prolonged lead exposure greatly contributes to intellectual delays, violence, even headaches, and irritation. Lots of people say she was just crazy and a bad mother, jeopardizing the life of her son, putting him into harm's way, resulting in him being shot by a flesh-ripping round from an assault rifle in the face. But there are always two sides to a story, especially if one side is the police and the other side is the civilian. The jurors in the city of Baltimore certainly thought the SWAT officers responsible for the shooting did something wrong. They paid out over $38 million to Korryn's family, $35 million alone awarded to her son Cody. But who was Korryn Gaines? What really happened that day in August 2016? Did any SWAT officers go to prison? We'll get to all that, but first, the intro.
It's a toy gun. And then
began to knock on the door, the apartment door, repeatedly. The officers announced their presence, their intent.
What are they trying to do?
they trying to kill us.
You're trying to steal my car, and you're telling me that if I don't get out my car, that you're going to kidnap me, and probably planning on kidnapping my kids, too.
But the devil at my door.
Korryn Gaines was born on August 24, 1992. At birth, she was a fearless Virgo weighing 9 pounds and 14 ounces, and was born to parents Rhonda Dormius and father Ryan Gaines. According to her mother, Korryn was always feisty and brave. Korryn grew up with 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and was the 3rd oldest of all the children. At times, Korryn lived apart from some of her siblings, perhaps due to her parents separating. At times, but both mom and dad made sure that the siblings had open contact with each other at all times, so that being apart never felt like being apart. From a very early age, Korryn was always active and a part of some activity, from joining swim classes at 4, drama and dance classes. However, according to her mother, Korryn's dance ambitions didn't last very long once a young performer realized the level of strict discipline required to succeed in the field, along with the flexibility training, which Korryn hated. Growing up in a home with half-siblings throughout taught Korryn that just because someone wasn't exactly like you or had different interests than you, it wasn't justification to other them. Perhaps Korryn's parents intentionally taught this lesson to the children, or it was just learned behavior through observation. But this perspective on human friendships and associations would carry over into her adult years, but transform into respect. Korryn would base her view on a person less on what they did for a living, but how they showed respect to her. This social view would be integral when it came to her relationship with law enforcement. Korryn didn't care if a person wore a badge and held the title of sheriff if they didn't respect her. Rather, the lack or perceived lack of respect was generating from her being a petite woman, an unmarried mother of 2, or because she was black. When Korryn felt disrespected, any interactions with her from that point became tainted and potentially confrontational. Part of garnering respect from others, Korryn understood that either you had to be a fighter or you had to be an intelligent enough to navigate difficult situations. Korryn, naturally feisty and outspoken, and naturally intelligent, merged the two to her advantage, later in life growing into a fierce intellectual. According to Rhonda, Korryn's mom,
I would buy her books on Friday, and I'd have to go buy her new books the next day.
In an interview, Rhonda mentioned that Korryn would spend a lot of time at the urban bookstore in the neighborhood just browsing, socializing with other customers, the bookstore employees, and making purchases. Rhonda went on to say,
I used to tell her to slow down. The bookstore had a little promotion where you can get so many books and then get a free book. I think you had to buy 10 books, and I would get a free book every time I went because I would buy her about 10 books. And the lady knew what she liked. She would go and pull all the books that Korryn would like.
She recalled the time when Korryn was almost 11 years old and began cultivating an interest in fashion and wanted to keep up her appearance. Rhonda went on to say,
she was graduating from elementary school and she wanted a pair of heels, and I said, "A pair of heels? You aren't even 11 years old yet." She threw a hissy fit. Eventually, the two agreed on a compromise. We found a perfect pair, and she was smiling again.
If it isn't obvious already, Korryn was very capable of expressing her thoughts and feelings into rational arguments that supported her case to get what she wanted, even as a small child. Her words and mannerism exuded an aura of confidence and determination, rare for a little girl her age. This character trait would be central in her interactions with the judicial system and law enforcement. It would become obvious to police that when it came to Korryn Gaines, they were dealing with a woman who was steadfast in her beliefs and unfolding in the face of possible jail time. She would not be forced into doing anything she felt was unfair or unjust, even if that meant her own death. After graduating from high school, Korryn decided to pursue a degree in political science from Morgan State University, located in the city of Baltimore. But fate had other plans for the vigilant beauty. During her first semester at the university, Korryn became pregnant by her boyfriend, Corey Cunningham. The first time Mom had a decision to make. Abortion was an option. It would allow her to finish her scholastic and political aspirations. Another option would be to receive help from friends, family, and her boyfriend, hoping that they saw her potential and would support her in her endeavors, but this option was an uncertainty. The third option is what Korryn settled on. On May 17, 2011, Korryn gave birth to her son, Cody Cunningham. She dropped out of Morgan State University and opted to continue her studies in cosmetology at Baltimore City College. Korryn, being a new mom, needed a steady, reliable income in order to support herself and her new baby. Things for Korryn were rocky. Eventually, the relationship fizzled out, but Korryn, being undaunted by challenges and determined to be self-sufficient, she successfully received her cosmetology license. It's pretty clear that Korryn was stylish and great at applying makeup and accessorizing. With a steady income, a new man in her life by the name of Kareem Courtney, things were looking up in her life. She became pregnant with her second child, this time a little girl. She and Kareem named Carson Courtney.
What is it?
It's a girl.
He is lying.
There was nothing more important and valuable to Korryn than being with her children. Part of the reason she left Morgan State University and attended cosmetology school was to achieve a fair work-life balance as a new mom. Although she had higher ambitions for herself, once she became a mother, she willingly pushed all that aside so that she could be an active parent and educator to her son Cody. Having an unshakable, opinionated personality and unafraid to ruffle a few feathers. From their birth, Korryn was actively passing those traits of unjust resistance onto her children. According to Rhonda, her mother,
Korryn was a doting mom and a disciplinarian. When Cody was little, she would talk to him and explain to him why he couldn't do something. She later gave birth to a beautiful daughter, Carson. She communicated with them on an adult level with appropriate interactions. She never handled them like babies. She really would have conversations with them. It would tickle me to death. That's why my grandson, Cody, is articulate. He's been talking a long time. She just taught her children.
What does this one say?
The cat is blue.
Good job. And what does this one say?
The dog is sad.
Good job. Look at you.
One very vital lesson in particular would be evident in a series of videos she posted to Facebook as she was having a standoff with the SWAT team, explaining the situation to her son Cody as she held a shotgun, even giving him life lessons you think would be taught to a teenager or adult during a traffic stop she'd been subjected to. Even when Cody began to shed tears of fear and confusion about the situation, Korryn further reiterated her point of educating Cody to set his fears aside.
Give me a hug, baby. I love you. Hey, mama. Hey.
Babe, do you want to get out of the vehicle?
Give me a kiss.
To get your children out?
What? You mommy love you. Don't cry. I told you, don't be scared. Huh?
Just to let you know, man, that we have a taser operator coming. Okay, that way we don't have to go hands-on with you.
Don't cry. Stop crying.
Get you out of this car.
Don't cry. Stop crying. Hey, look at me. What are you afraid of? Remember what I told you? You stop crying, okay? And you let them know that they stole your mother and they want to fight her, okay? Stop crying. Stop crying. Can you shut her door? Don't. What did I just tell you?
Don't cry.
Don't cry, and you better fight. Y'all need to get away from them. You come up here with me.
She's grabbing the baby. Come on, stop. All right.
Sir,
stop.
Don't
I don't want her
put
to
your
take the baby.
hands on me.
You're not touching the baby, all right? She's a good hand. Stop.
This is my child.
You're gonna
get off of her.
I have no doubt that most people familiar with the tragedy would consider Korryn radical or attempt to diagnose her with some sort of mental defect. It's natural, especially as you watch the video of the standoff, as she held the shotgun ready for war with her 5-year-old son standing beside her. But if you want to go that route of trying to find out why Korryn took the action she did and felt the way she felt, let's do that before calling her crazy or a bad mother. It's become commonly known even outside of the black community. In fact, what once was strictly discussed in the black community is the talk. We're all relatively familiar with the talk. When black parents will discuss with their black child how their blackness is perceived by the wider world, how their blackness alone is intimidating to others even if the other has a badge and a gun. Keep your hands on the steering wheel, let down your windows, have your license and ID ready to hand over. Say yes sir, say no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. Do exactly what the police tell you to do. Don't have your radio up too loud, don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. And if you are handcuffed, searched twice, and placed in the back of a police cruiser, pray that an acorn doesn't hit the police car, because your magical blackness could get you out of those handcuffs, place a gun in your hand, and force you to open fire on the arresting officer.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! I'm hit! What? I'm in the car! Get in the car! Oh! I'm good, I'm good. I don't know. I might have hit my vest. I'm not. I don't know. It felt like it.
Jesse, move over to me. I got you. Move over to me. Jesse, come back. Mark vehicle right there.
Dude, am I hit?
Come on.
Growing up around similar types of foolishness at the hands of the Baltimore Police Department is the reason Korryn was determined not to become a victim of judicial mistreatment. She proved to the world that she'd rather die a martyr in front of her children than to be seen by her children groveling and submitting to mistreatment of the enemy she'd been reading about in the books as a child, and the enemy she often told her children to never fear. Her children would never see her as a hypocrite and a coward. And raising a black son in a world that hates him simply for his existence, cowardice was never an option. At the very least, she practiced what she preached. Can any of us truly say the same? But Korryn was always outspoken about social justice, even as a child. Hence the reason why she entered university to study political science. And like many crusaders, martyrs, and political activists, there is usually a spark that ignites the wildfire. An event so strong that it instantly changes the trajectory of a person's life from that moment forward. And such a moment happened to Korryn. It was not a single moment, but a rapid succession of events that lit the fire. One in particular was the murder of Freddie Gray at the hands of the Baltimore police.
Hey y'all, I just want to know, I wrote something about pencil and paper. And I just want to know how many of y'all would like to hear my story about pencil and paper. It's pretty good too, but I just wanted to know if I should share it or not.
Freddie Gray was a Baltimore native and 25 years old at the time of his murder. On April 12, 2015, he was accosted and arrested by police because he possessed a legal pocket knife. During the officer's physical restraining of Freddie, witnesses say excessive force was used even though it wasn't necessary. This overuse of force resulted, as you can see in the footage, of Freddie being unable to use his legs. He was then tossed in the back of a paddy wagon without restraints to protect him from the swaying of the moving vehicle. During the trip to jail, police reports say that that's when Freddie received his injuries. His cervical spine was severed. Exactly 1 week later in the hospital, he was pronounced dead.
What did you first notice?
Well, I was actually in the bed asleep, and one of my relatives came running in the house screaming my name. They're tasing him, they're tasing him, they're tasing one of your friends. And then I run out the door to try to, see what's going on. But by the time I got to the actual site that it was happening,
I didn't see the taser or the taser. He was putting it back in the holster rather than tasing him still. And so then I just whipped out my phone and started recording, man. And I was actually behind at first, but as you can see on the video, I had to run around the van to try to get a better angle. So that's what I did. But when I got there to the site, man, it was just terrible.
Were you looking through the camera, or were you sort of looking?
Many people believe Freddie already had a spinal injury from the excessive force used during the arrest, and by carelessly handling Freddie, placing him without proper restraints in the paddy wagon, further exacerbated the injury, and not giving him immediate medical attention was the actual cause of his death. Thus, he died from a severed spine at the hands of a police beating, and not from a thrashing of a police van. As a result of his death and public outcry, the officers would stand trial. However, not one of the 6 officers will be found guilty of his murder or even reckless homicide. A tragic coincidence within Freddie's tale is that Korryn and Freddie were neighbors and knew each other in passing. At the time of her neighbor Freddie Gray's death by law enforcement, Korryn and the nation were still in an uproar over the 2014 Cleveland police killing of 12-year-old Tamir Rice as he played alone in the neighborhood park with his toy gun. In 2015, Walter Scott, a 50-year-old black man, shot in the back multiple times by a South Carolina police officer. Oh, Also in 2015, you had the nationwide reporting of the murder of Sandra Bland while in police custody.
What happened to my daughter? What happened to Sandy Bland? Where is the continual tape to show her arrival throughout the day? I am still confident in the fact that she knew enough about Jesus that she would not take herself out. Anything is possible. I wasn't there. But as a mother, my inner is telling me that she did not do that. Now, I'm the first one to tell you, if the facts, I'm not talking about the fiction, If the facts show, without a doubt, that that was the case, you know, I'll have to be prepared to deal with that. But the bottom line is she never should have been inside of the jail, period.
On July 5th, 2016, Korryn, like the rest of the nation, would watch the cell phone video of the murder of Baton Rouge, Louisiana resident Alton Sterling, as he was shot 6 times at close range while being restrained on the ground by police officers.
Oh shit! They shot him? Oh my fucking goodness!
They killed this boy.
Oh.
The following day, on July 6, 2016, the nation heard of another police shooting of a black male, this time Philando Castile. Philando was murdered near Minneapolis, Minnesota, as he, along with his fiancée and daughter, was subjected to a police traffic stop. He was shot at close range multiple times in front of his family.
The newly released dashcam video shows the moment when Officer Geronimo Yanez stopped Philando Castile for a broken taillight last July, first asking Castile for his license and registration.
I have to tell you, I do have a firearm on me.
Don't reach for it then. Don't pull it out. Don't pull it out.
Within 90 seconds of making the stop, the 29-year-old officer fired 7 shots. Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, was in the passenger seat. She streamed the immediate aftermath on Facebook Live.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license. Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
Anyone paying attention to social issues within the nation and with any tiny bit of empathy would have been outraged at this strange, rapid succession of police killings of black people at a historic time when America had its first black president. Korryn, like many in the black community, saw these killings by law enforcement as a form of retaliation against Barack Obama and black people in general because he was elected president. It should come as no surprise, and it certainly wasn't concealed, that a lot of white people, specifically racist white people, wanted revenge in any form that they felt they could get away with it. At times feeling immense rage, sporadic bouts of depression because of the national social wrongs being carried out against black people, and being naturally outspoken, Korryn began to speak out against these injustices, not only targeting those whom she knew personally, like her brother who had been a victim of police brutality at the hands of the Baltimore PD, but those whom she's seen within the news reports. Korryn was also a spoken words artist, and she would express her frustrations with injustice within her poetry. One of her final poems was about the July 6, 2016 murder of Philando Castile mentioned earlier. How could she have known that less than a month after Philando, she'd be making national headline news as the latest murder victim of police violence?
Ink versus lead. I'm starting to enjoy writing with lead instead of ink. I have a better chance at fixing my mistakes without the mess of scratching out or ruining the paper. I create more space and time just by erasing the error instead of having to look at it the entire time, or wasting all the space of scratching out or throwing away the paper. I can keep the same ideas and master them instead of throwing away complete thoughts and ideas. With that being said, I can no longer scratch out the lives I've encountered or created. No matter the source of manifestation, I can't just eliminate it altogether, but I can erase it and make it better without having to acknowledge the mess it made before, but instead the good that came from it. The devil has left one too many footprints on good souls in this good universe. It has come the time to erase.
Like most major events in our lives, we can look back and realize that the major event or change was sparked out of something usually unrelated to the major event itself. Example, you're walking down the street so that you can catch the bus so you can get to work. Suddenly you notice your shoes are untied, so you stop and you tie them. As you're tying your shoes, the bus headed to your job rides past, and you miss it. If you would not have stopped to tie your shoe, you would have made the bus and got to work on time, and you wouldn't have to explain to your manager why you were late. But because you chose to tie your shoe, you missed the bus, had to wait 20 minutes for another. When you got to work, you had to explain why you were 40 minutes late. Now you seem unreliable, and you lose your job. In Korryn's case, the event that set into motion the tragic events of August 1st, 2016 took place on November 10th, 2016, when Korryn was pulled over in Cantonsville by Baltimore County Police. At this point in her educational journey, she was studying the ideology of sovereign citizens movements. She was charged with several traffic violations, including operating an unregistered motor vehicle, driving without current tags, driving an uninsured vehicle, failure to display registration card on demand, and driving a vehicle on the highway with a suspended registration. In the cell phone footage uploaded to social media by Korryn, she told the officers that she believed Baltimore County Police would kill her. In an exchange with one of the arresting officers, he would say, "I'm not going to murder you, I promise you that." Korryn would go on to say, "Oh, okay, well, one of you will. One of you will. I promise you, you will." Stemming from this confrontation, Korryn was also charged with resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, and littering, all of which are misdemeanors. On July 13, 2016, a month later, she was charged with failure to appear in court, and a warrant was issued for her arrest.
They're doing, and they will have to kill me today.
No, nobody wants to
They
kill you.
will have to. They will have to,
You know,
in front
you
of my
don't get
children
out,
and everything.
you're going
That's
to jail, right?
Listen, and they will not kidnap me. They're not going to steal my vehicle, and they're not going to kidnap me the way they think that they are. They're going to have to kill me today, and it's something that they're not going to anticipate, but they will.
On March 10th at 4:05 p.m., at this point in time, my daughter's dad had been held hostage for 8+ months, and I had to go through drastic measures to have him freed after it was said and done. My cell phones were disconnected and my license plates were stolen off of my car. I put a tag on my car to warn that if any government official further tried to compromise my traveling rights, that they would be held accountable. This note remained for about 4 weeks, with no harassment from the police who I lived directly across from. This was the day they orchestrated my kidnapping.
In this caption, Korryn stated that her fiancé had been wrongfully imprisoned for over 8 months, according to her mother, Rhonda.
Korryn was involved in a lawsuit against the police on behalf of her daughter Carson's father. The police had been harassing Korryn because she had a lawsuit against one of the jails down here, and she was able to get people on the phone that the average person could not get to. Carson's dad was wrongfully detained in jail and put back into the legal system. There was a series of things that Korryn had investigated and actually gotten a lawyer, so she was able to go after them.
Carson's father was released, but the arrest stayed on his record. Korryn was involved in a lawsuit to clear his record.
Constitutional law is the only true law. In order to be granted the role as law enforcement, you must take an oath to uphold the Constitution and be granted a delegation of authority order. The police are not law enforcement. They are policy enforcers and operate outside of the laws of the Constitution, which would make them organized criminals. They enforce corporate law to generate revenue, in others' words, to get money. However, in this case, they know that I know this, and this is them making trouble with me. which is not a true form of the law, but so many of us have bended to their criminal ways. Not me.
Korryn would go on to post that she was being held against my will and under duress, adding that they accused me of being irate and belligerent. Stemming from Korryn's traffic stop arrest on March 10, 2016, the police had to release a statement in order to address the numerous complaints involving their treatment and detainment of Korryn. The statement reads as follows. Officers stopped Gaines' silver Toyota Camry because it had no license plate, only a rectangular piece of cardboard with the following writing on it. Any government official who compromises the pursuit of happiness and right to travel will be held criminally responsible and fined, as this is a natural right to freedom. The police said, Gaines resisted arrest, throwing the citations issued by the officer out the window and saying officers would have to murder her before she got out of the vehicle. She engaged officers in a physical fight as they tried to remove her from the vehicle. Rhonda, Korryn's mother, echoed the same statement as Korryn pertaining to why Korryn's vehicle didn't have a license plate because it was reported stolen. Korryn believes someone, likely a member of law enforcement, stole her license plate off her vehicle.
Sir, this is what I explained to him. I'm in the middle of suing the government. The government actually came and took my tags off of my car. My car was properly insured. My car was up to date with everything.
At that point, Korryn did some research and discovered that it would be legal to drive without plates if she placed free traveler tags on her car. She drove around with those tags for a long time before they stopped her.
She was stopped around the time of the lawsuit, which had been set into motion. Korryn went in to describe the time she spent in jail as a result of the traffic stop because of her missing license plate in a social media post.
After 2 days in isolation and being starved and with no water, and my prints being court-ordered to prove I was under duress, which the court order was stolen and I have proof of that as well via video. Being denied phone calls and being diagnosed with pregnancy and a miscarriage, I requested a medic for the second time, which I was able to alert her and tell her I was a hostage, and being denied my basic constitutional rights, and she was on it. On my consent forms in the ER, I had to write "Please help me" on the line, without the kidnapper that traveled with me seeing. They all were very helpful, and when I left the ER at 1:30 a.m. March 12th, I was taken past the precinct where some of my stuff was handed to the transporter through the window. I was never asked to sign my belongings in or out, and I was taken to see a commissioner where I was set free. As you can see, this all stemmed from traffic. None of the traffic items holds jail time, but they conveniently have resisting arrest at the top. But there is no reason on this document for an arrest. I was supposed to leave with fines, not with bruises, and definitely not in their custody to spend for 2 days and more if I had not been smart enough to realize I was a hostage from the very beginning of the traffic stop. They told my family I fought them, which I didn't. All I asked them to do was not to touch me, and snatched away my arms. I hit no one, hence the reason for no assault charges. They literally put this BS in black ink on white paper.
For context, this video was recorded in April. The month after the traffic arrest, Korryn would post a video on her social media. The video showed her arriving at a Baltimore County jail to request medical documentation she failed to receive when her personal belongings were returned to her. The arrest stemmed from the traffic stop that took place back in March. We previously went over. She was sent to the hospital twice while in police custody due to complications she experienced from a recent miscarriage. Korryn had no major criminal record at the time of her 2016 traffic arrest. However, June of 2015, she was ticketed for confining an unattended child, a misdemeanor violation. She pled guilty, and in September 2015, and was fined $42.50 along with court costs and put on supervision probation for 1 day. In the state of Maryland, a person is charged with that violation when a child under the age of 8 is locked or confined in a home or motor vehicle while the parent is absent or out of sight without any supervision. I want to first address a misrepresentation perpetuated by the news media surrounding Korryn and a short Instagram video to be exact. This video specifically. This video was recorded and uploaded July 19, 2016, 2 weeks before her final altercation with the Baltimore PD. What the media did was show the video without the timestamp in order to give the impression that Korryn was loading up a shotgun in preparations for the shootout. Also, the media wanted to give the impression that Korryn purchased the shotgun in order to specifically harm law enforcement. Gaines had bought the shotgun 11 months before for $429 at a store called The Cop Shop near downtown Baltimore. Also, according to Korryn's own written caption of the video, she stated,
"Gotta thank my dad for teaching me how to protect myself, and I gotta thank myself for teaching me who I need protection from. Hope they sending in clones, I'm waiting though. They threw me a charge too late, got my big girl September of last year, legit wit papers, thought I was gonna have to take out a nigga and realized I had a bigger problem. Fuck it, let's dance, I got some rhythm."
Korryn's statement of, quote, "I thought I was going to have to take out a nigga and realized I had a bigger problem," unquote, is referring to an incident at her home, according to Rhonda, her mother. After Korryn returned from Disneyland with her children, she found that someone had broken into her home. She decided to legally purchase a gun for protection. Prior to the break-in, she had also had issue with someone trying to gain access to her home. She went and bought a shotgun because it was just her and her kids, she said. "I'm not standing here without protection," Rhonda explained. Korryn never expected that she would need to protect her home from the police.
It has come the time to erase the error and fix good for good without the resentment of wasted space, time, and energy, but with confidence and strength to effortlessly fix it, continue to be great and infinite. Writing with this pencil even allows the back of this paper to have a free and clear space to write, whereas ink disrupts the eyes and the words that have been written in purpose, leaving room for misunderstanding instead of all good room, as it should be. The pencil tells me so. Writing with this pencil tells me that even in mistakes, you can erase it and write even bolder than before in that same portion of space, finding and creating a truth in more than one instance. Writing with this pencil tells me that if you keep erasing enough,
At 9:20 a.m., several Baltimore County warrant service members responded to the unit block of Salty Court to serve 2 arrest warrants. A warrant for Mrs. Gaines from an incident that occurred in March of this year during a traffic stop. The other warrant was for the other occupant in the home, Mr. Kareem Courtney. It was an assault warrant that was taken out by Mrs. Gaines due to a domestic assault that had occurred weeks prior.
3 police officers knocked on the apartment door of Korryn, where she lived with her 2 children, 5-year-old Cody and 1-year-old Carson. Also living in the home was her 39-year-old fiance, Korryn Keon Courtney. Police were sent to serve 2 arrest warrants. One was for Korryn, who was charged with second-degree assault after an alleged altercation with Gaines on June 28, 2016, 3 days prior. The second warrant was for Korryn herself pertaining to her failure to appear in court back in July to resolve her traffic arrest back in March. According to Rhonda, Korryn's mother,
Korryn had been demanding a court date and was not given one.
Korryn said something similar to the police officers in the video when she visited the jail to retrieve missing medical documents. In this video, I'll briefly go over a few comments that stood out to me. First, Korryn acknowledged she had a court date coming up in April. This video was uploaded in March. This probably could contradict the statement her mother said in an interview I just mentioned when Rhonda said Korryn had been demanding a court date and was not given one. On the other hand, it's possible that her mother was referring to a second or third court date and not the first date that was scheduled in April. People familiar with the court proceedings know that in most cases a verdict or decision isn't determined on the very first court appearance. I'm certain Korryn was not pleading guilty to any of the traffic charges, therefore she potentially would have had multiple court dates until the matter was resolved. Korryn also was under the counsel of an attorney because she stated as much here.
We're talking about the documents.
Exactly. And this is something that you're saying that he comes in Thursday. I have court dates already. Okay. And I need to talk to my lawyer, and these are things that my lawyer has to have. So unless you guys are guaranteeing me that my court dates and everything are going to stop until I receive those documents, so that I can have the correct amount of time to seek my counsel, then that's fine. If you can guarantee that because my court dates are in April.
Korryn was also seeking 2 documents during her visit to the jail, one being the medical release form from her first visit to the hospital while in custody, and the second being the court order to retrieve her fingerprints. Korryn felt the police illegally seized her fingerprints via a court-ordered warrant, and she wanted proof of that. Based on the video Korryn posted of her visit to the jail, it became clear to me, and Korryn says out of her own mouth, that she felt the department was purposely withholding evidence that would assist her in winning her case. Korryn's suspicion is further exacerbated when she asks the officer to speak to his supervisor because he is unaware of her situation. The officers left and returned stating that his supervisor refused to speak to Korryn. Korryn will go on to say to the officer in the video that she believes the supervisor during the court trial will try to deny the fact that she refused to speak to Korryn and provide her with the missing evidence requested that would help Korryn's trial.
I'm requesting you to get your supervisor here so that I can speak with him directly. Okay?
She said
Obvious.
she's not talking to you.
Okay. Can I hear her say that?
Ma'am, she's not going to.
Because I'm sure that I'm sure she doesn't want you to say that on this camera. I know she don't want you to speak for her. So if she could come out here and she can deny my request to speak with her, I'm not going to take your word for it.
That's fine. I'm just
Okay.
she's not going to talk to you. She told me to give you that information, and I'm doing
Okay.
what she told me.
Okay, and can you ask her to make sure, I want to get that on camera, that she does not want to speak with me, because I can't take your word for it, because when we go to court, she can easily say that she did not say that. And you are a credible person, okay? I'm trying to speak to absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Well, ma'am, I'll say you have one for day. There's nothing else. She's not coming out to talk to you. I'm just telling you she's not.
I say all this to put forth an hypothesis as to why Korryn missed court if she intentionally did so. Korryn genuinely believed that the police department and Baltimore judicial system were intentionally attempting to withhold evidence as a way to either imprison her, give her a ridiculous fine and probation, or both. Therefore, she was refusing to attend any further court proceedings until the requested evidence was handed over to either her or her attorney. Whether that way of thinking was right or wrong, in my opinion, doesn't matter because it was obviously rational to Korryn. I would not have missed court when I could have simply told the judge that the police department were withholding evidence. I would have told her that in person. Researching Korryn as thoroughly as I have, I'm sure she told the judge about the missing evidence, and based on the final outcome, it seems the judge dismissed her concerns. I said all that to say that I want to give you, the viewer, as much context as possible so that you can come up with your own conclusion for what happened next. It's 80 degrees early morning, August 1st, 2016, 9 a.m. Randallstown, Maryland, at the Carriage Hill Circle Apartments. 2 police officers, Alan Griffin and John Dow, approach apartment number T4 and knock. Their intentions? To serve 2 warrants, one for the female adult occupant on charges of failing to appear in court in relation to the Mar traffic stop, and another for the male adult occupant, Korryn Courtney, on an assault charge related to domestic violence allegations filed by Korryn. The 2 officers could hear light whispers, footsteps, and a small child crying, but no one answers the door. Hearing hard, aggressive knocks at the door, Korryn tiptoes to the peephole, and she sees the officers waiting outside her apartment. She silently steps away from the door and alerts her fiancé Korryn that the police are outside. He gets up and they both get dressed in whatever is nearby. They begin to discuss reasons why the police could be at their home. They come to the conclusion that it's probably best to pretend not to be home and to stay as quiet as possible. Officers Alan Griffin and John Dow then call for another officer from the Woodlawn precinct, instructs him to go to the apartment building's rental office and get a key for their apartment. Korryn tiptoes to the door again to listen to the officers' conversation in order to get an understanding of their intentions and what exactly they're there for. She overhears them discussing ways to enter their apartment by either kicking down the door or calling the apartment management to get the key. Korryn then quietly steps away from the door and goes into her bedroom, grabs her shotgun and stations herself on the living room floor. Seeing this, her son Cody quietly questions his mom about what's happening. She tells him that the police are at the door and they're trying to kidnap her and take him and his baby sister away. She says she won't let that happen. She then instructs Cody to come and sit with her.
Writing with this pencil tells me that if you keep erasing enough, you'll need another sheet of paper, so you can never run out of it, or pencils with erasers. The eraser gives you the option to correct and perfect. The paper gives you the possibility, while the possibilities enables the idea and thought to write something with the pencil, and the eraser provoking mistake, but also the lead promoting perfection and standing for some type of truth. The cycle of the lead, pencil, paper, and eraser is similar to the idea of existing in more times than one and always becoming exactly what it's meant to be at the same time. Infinite possibilities leave room for no mistakes, only times of truth in many forms, perfecting and protecting one main goal. That being to create substance, something that matters, like the lead and the pencil and the eraser at the top. Life gives you something to hold on to.
The third officer arrives with the apartment key. Quietly, they unlock the door and realize the door is also chain locked. Then Officer Dow kicks in the door and Officer Griffin goes inside. According to documents filed in Baltimore County District Court, Gaines was seated on the floor, allegedly pointed a black shotgun at Officer Griffin and demanded the officers to leave her home because they illegally entered her residence. Officer Griffin immediately steps back out of the apartment and closes the door. He tells the other officers the situation and they contact command requesting a SWAT team. The three officers present begin preliminary negotiations.
They don't. This one? I can put this on.
At 9:41 a.m., tactical offers that members of the department's hostage negotiation team were paged to the apartment. Police were now describing the incident as a barricade situation. At the start, there were 4 people in the apartment: Gaines, Courtney, Gaines' son Cody, and the couple's 1-year-old daughter, Carson. But Courtney left the apartment with the 1-year-old and surrendered to officers, but according to the son, he was later released. He told police he tried to bring Cody out as well, but the child went back to his mother. Cody wouldn't leave his mother's side even until the very end. Rhonda says she remembered the day very clearly.
It was a Monday. The day started so weirdly because I hadn't spoken to her since late Friday night, laughing and joking on the phone. Monday morning, she called me and said someone tried to kick her door down.
Korryn soon told her mother that the police were at her home. According to Rhonda, who was at this point, along with 8 other family members, gathered at the Colonial Baptist Church nearby.
I could hear her boyfriend telling her it wasn't worth it to just come on out.
Korryn's mom, Rhonda Dormius, believes her daughter never knew that family members, including her parents, grandmother, and cousins, were gathered nearby at the church, where police set up a staging area. The relatives spent the day in a daycare classroom at the church.
My baby felt like she was alone. She had no idea that we were there.
During the standoff, police tried a variety of tactics in order to convince Korryn to surrender. They tried appealing to her motherly instincts to consider her 1-year-old daughter on the other side of the door crying out for her, the dangerous position Cody was in, and promises that they wouldn't hurt her if she just came out peacefully.
They repeatedly tried to get the occupants to the front door. They heard a female's voice. They heard a male's voice. They heard a crying child inside the apartment. After approximately 10 minutes, they retrieved a key from apartment management, turned the lock, door opens slightly, and is secured by the standard security chain that we're all familiar with. They could clearly see a female that they believed to be Miss Gaines seated on the floor, a child nearby who immediately began to wield a shotgun around, bringing it up to ready position, pointing it directly at the officer there to serve the arrest warrants. The officers immediately retreated, took cover in the hallway of this structure, and immediately began dialogue with her, summoning tactical and support personnel.
As negotiations dragged on with little result, the negotiator resorted to pretending to be Rhonda, Korryn's mom, communicating with her through text messages.
They took my phone and said they'd bring it back, and they were stupid because they didn't delete their communication from it. The police did not use the same language I would have. She knew it wasn't me. They didn't have a warrant to get my phone. Took my phone first, got the warrant second, and they were communicating with Korryn.
Whoever texted Korryn from Rhonda's phone at one point texted,
"What's wrong with you guys? Why don't you guys just come on out?"
Korryn then responded to say,
Ma, are you going crazy?
Police first attempt to open a direct line of contact with her. One officer wondered about Korryn posting on social media and whether they could jam her phone service to disrupt her access.
"It's a phone that the number's already dead. She's just using the Wi-Fi portion. We can't control that phone."
An officer responded. Police commandeered the apartment of Gaines' next-door neighbor, Ramon Coleman, drilling holes in his living room, bedroom, and bathroom walls to monitor Korryn's movements with surveillance equipment connected to TV-like monitors. At one point, police noted Cody brought a peanut butter and jelly sandwich from the kitchen to his mother. Over the course of a day, she used her phone to record police, at times posting videos on social media. In one of the videos Korryn uploaded to Facebook during the standoff, an officer standing in the hallway outside the door said,
"Getting hurt here today. Ain't happening. I ain't gonna have it. Okay? You're a young lady, you got your whole life ahead of you, you got a beautiful baby, which I would like to meet. And you and I are gonna talk until we come to an agreement. We bring everybody out safe, and you and I go have a sit down. Because you know, and I know that this ain't right.
It's not.
That's right. This should have went down this way, should it?
No.
And that's what I want to talk about. And I hate to yell at you, and I'm sorry for yelling. I don't want to yell at you, but I don't know if you can hear me here. And I would love for nothing more than for you to just come out and sit down with me. Ain't nobody getting hurt today, I promise you. You need a baby to go sit and talk. I'll get you something to drink, something to eat, whatever you want. But I'm telling you, okay, I promise you, that gun you have, that is not a solution, dear. That's not going to solve any problems. You're smarter than that. I know you're smarter than that. You've been talking to me like a professional and a grown woman, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Gaines recounted to the negotiator her traffic stop in March, when she said she was kidnapped by police and suffered a miscarriage of twins during hours of mistreatment, starting at the police department's Woodlawn precinct. Goodness, so that was a bad experience, Sergeant Greenbeck said. Korryn was convinced the officers at her door were trying to take her back to the precinct and kill her while in custody like Sandra Bland out in Texas almost exactly a year to the date back in 2015.
Now they spoke on FTA and court dates and all of that nonsense that I haven't acknowledged those things, okay? This is stemming from a kidnapping and a hostage situation.
What kind of kidnapping? What do you mean?
Okay. Last year, my fiance was arrested. He had violated his parole.
Okay.
He was kidnapped from one institution and taken to a different facility where he was held captive way beyond the time that they had the right to hold him. I was the one from the outside who had to call captains, state troopers, and the state itself for them to call me to tell me to come pick him up from that facility, okay? Now, of course, that puts me under the radar as much as he was already under it. So after I did that, when he came home in January, at the end of January, I want you to go sit down, please. Sit right here. You need to stay right there, all right? Thank you. When he came home in January, that was when, I had told them that we were gonna sue and all of that, but I guess we didn't sue them fast enough. We didn't put our time and energy into them and stressing about them fast enough. And we made the decision that we would work on building our home instead before if we ever even tried to consider that. Because it takes too much time and it takes too much energy. And at the end of the day, it's not worth the money.
Right.
To me. So, basically, that didn't mean anything. They went the extra mile. They came, they took the tags off of my car. My car was properly insured. It had the 2-year tags on there. My car was good. My license was straight. But like I had told the officer that had who pulled me over back in March when they kidnapped me, I let him know that I would not be acknowledging that license because the government has disowned my vehicle.
Okay.
And I have all of that on footage. Okay? Now they stole my car. I was never asked if I was able to remove my vehicle off of the public roadways, which I did have the means to do that. And I have a property that will house the dimensions of my car. I was never asked that. I was told that my car was gonna be stolen and that if I didn't get out of it, I was gonna be stolen. And that is exactly what they proceeded to do. They proceeded to steal my car. I was assaulted. I have pictures. I had bruises from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. My children witnessed this. They took me to the hospital. I had suffered a miscarriage. I was pregnant with twins. Okay? When I did get to Woodlawn's precinct, I was denied phone calls. I was denied food. I was denied water.
So that was a bad experience.
And they continue to tell me that I was in isolation and they didn't know why or who had put me in that particular status. Okay? My fingerprint. That happened at Woodlawn Precinct, which these people right here at my door are trying to take me to now. A place where I probably, to them, should have never made it out of. Okay, for 48 hours. For 48 hours, I was held captive. Without food,
without water and suffering a miscarriage, okay? My fingerprints were court-ordered.
At some point during the standoff, Korryn's fiance would tell officers in an attempt to garner patience and a peaceful solution to the situation that Korryn had mental health issues and had been offered medications. Officers found out Cody's father, Korryn Cunningham, was a former county police officer. They considered having him contact her, but learned they were no longer close.
They shot first. Who gave the authorization? Who said it was okay to take a shot with a 5-year-old walking around the apartment?
Korryn Cunningham is the father of 5-year-old Cody Gaines. In August, a Baltimore County police officer shot and wounded Cody while firing and killing his mother, 23-year-old Korryn Gaines. Police say she was armed with a shotgun. Police entered her apartment to serve warrants by kicking down a door. A tactical officer fired, police say, after a 6-hour standoff when she threatened to kill police. Cody was hit in the cheek. His arm was injured.
The round was in his face and his lower cheek area, and he also had material in his arm.
Like shrapnel in his arm?
I don't know. I wasn't there when the first operation went for his arm, so I can't speak on that. All I know is I was told there was things in his arm, and now he has screws in his arm to get his elbow back together.
Unknown where the boy was in the apartment when the tactical officer fired. Police have declined our request for details.
He was in the house. That's what really matters. He was in the house, so why shoot? Why do anything when it's a 5-year-old running around? I mean, he's 5. You shoot, he can do anything. He can run, he can do anything. He's 5. He doesn't know anything about that. All he is a loud noise, he's scared. And then of course he's gonna run to his mom because he's scared. So why would you do anything like that with a 5-year-old in the house?
Lawyer Kenneth Ravenel represents Cody and his father.
There's this total lack of transparency. You know, it's been 30 days plus, and we have been told nothing about what really happened.
Attorney Ravenel notes the contrast between the Baltimore County Police handling of Korryn Gaines when they fired after 6 hours and 16 years ago when county police had to handle the Joseph Palczynski hostage drama. Then they waited 4 days. Baltimore County Police again declined today to answer our questions. Reporting live tonight, I'm Jane Miller, WBAL TV 11 News.
They also had Korryn's father, Ryan Gaines, record a message that police planned to play for her over the phone, but Gaines never got it. As best as they could, they wanted to avoid talking about the March traffic stop, believing it was one of her triggers to becoming emotional. Around 2 p.m., police asked Facebook to shut down Korryn's account because she was live streaming videos she was recording, and they believed her having access to social media was hindering negotiation efforts. They considered the possibility that other people could be talking her out of surrendering. However, they didn't immediately hear back from Facebook. They also asked the company to shut down her Instagram account. According to their notes, police officers consulted with a psychologist about their decision to make the request to shut down Korryn's social media capabilities. They wanted to know if by doing so, would that cause her to feel further isolated and desperate and more volatile. Over the radio, an officer is heard saying,
"We've never done it before."
This decision would prove controversial amongst activists who say it prevented Gaines from posting videos of police at a time when civil videos of law enforcement have sparked a national dialogue about police brutality and misconduct. At 2:40 p.m., Gaines recorded another video of herself. She was holding the shotgun up near her chest, pointed upward.
I don't want the milk.
Okay.
So I gotta put the soy in. Go put the soy in. Go put this in the sink.
No, I want you to stay right there for a second.
5 minutes later, at 2:45 p.m., police confirmed they had shut down power to Korryn's apartment. As the afternoon wore on, it was obvious to police that negotiations had broke down.
Is she still somewhat calm?
No, she is now mostly rambling, still about the previous arrest and the previous contact with us.
She knows we're not leaving, right?
Yeah, I'm sure she does.
According to Robert W. Taylor, a criminologist professor at University of Texas at Dallas, and former police negotiator,
Gaines's access to social media added just another complexity to an already difficult situation. When you have this outside line to Facebook and social media, it's just a compounding factor. You're only going to be able to control the media to a certain degree. Because of Cody's presence, police had no choice but to remain at the apartment. The police were damned if they do, and damned if they don't.
Life gives you something to hold on to that should never run out, like a pencil. The paper offers manifestation and the eraser offers perfection. So now when I asked myself in high school, why was it necessary? So now when I asked myself why in high school it was necessary to have pen and paper, unlike the pencils in elementary school, I understand that it created an illusion that there was only one way to be perfect, when there are infinite ways of perfection in all times at one. But the perfection of truth can never be non-existent. But continuous. If every so-called mistake can't be fixed, it takes away the possibilities, which would mean that one has run out of paper. So the lead no longer matters, and the eraser becomes the imagination instead of creation. Your imagination is nothing without creation, just as possibility.
At 3:21 p.m., Gaines had entered the kitchen of her apartment, according to police timeline. 3 minutes later, police noted that Gaines was highly agitated and screaming at officers to get back. A minute later, they noted it appeared Gaines' Facebook and Instagram were down.
My proof of insurance, my registration that you guys said I never had, my title,
Then, at 3:26 p.m., a voice came across the SWAT tactical channel. Shots fired. Shots fired. Officer Royce Rudy Jr., who fired the fatal shot, said in a statement,
The shooting happened after Gaines, who had been sitting on the floor within view of the officers through much of the day, suddenly ran into her kitchen. This was a huge tactical advantage to her, giving the suspect a good angle to shoot at officers stationed just outside of her open front door. I could see the muzzle of the shotgun and a piece of her hair at the entrance to the kitchen. Police commanded her to drop the gun. Then I saw her gun raising up and sticking further into the hallway, pointed at the officers positioned next to me. Fearing for our lives, I fired through the drywall at her head. She then fired her shotgun for the first time but did not strike any officers.
Rudy and the other officers then rushed in, trying to reach Korryn before she could pump her shotgun and fire again. But Gaines did shoot again towards the officers approaching through the other kitchen entrance. Officers said they hoped to pull Cody to safety. As Rudy rushed to Gaines, he wrote, he saw her turning the shotgun towards him. Rudy wrote that he was afraid for his life and the boy's life when he fired 3 more rounds at Korryn's center mass. As Cody was moving from her side to behind her and away, no other officers fired their weapon. Gordon, the Gaines family attorney, said police should have waited Gaines out longer. Woody should have not shot into the apartment, Gordon said, especially through a wall when Cody was there, next to his mother. What do you all think? Do you think the police should have found another solution or waited a bit longer, attempting more peaceful resolution to resolve the issue? Please let me know in the comments.
Ryan Gaines is back in his daughter's apartment. It's where Baltimore County police shot and killed Korryn Gaines during a shootout last month.
Here's the bullet hole.
Several bullet holes seen clearly from what must have been a volley of gunfire. Marlene McBride.
There are 1, 2, there are 3 more. Something bounced off of here.
Is Korryn's grandmother. It's a compact apartment. We could see just how close Korryn and police were to each other, 8 to 10 feet apart perhaps, as bullets flew, killing Korryn and injuring her 5-year-old son.
She died laying in the kitchen.
In the kitchen, baby bottles are still on the counter, unwashed dishes in the sink, and oil still in the frying pan.
Right.
The family is back at the Carriage Hill Circle Apartments in Randallstown to turn in Korryn's key to management. But before doing that, Gaines said he wanted to show the public where his daughter died.
That's an entry hole, and that's an exit.
We're inside to give some context as to what Korryn and police faced that day.
They violated her rights. How do you just walk in somebody's house like that and to shoot them?
Investigators have said police opened fire after Korryn, who was sitting on the floor of the apartment with her child close by, pointed a shotgun at officers through the door. Officers later kicked in the door. An officer fired. Gaines returned gunfire, but no officer was hurt. Police say they were there to serve warrants on Korryn stemming from a traffic stop and on her boyfriend in connection with an alleged assault on Korryn.
I've never seen somebody die behind a traffic infraction.
According to her autopsy, Gaines was shot in her left chest, the left back, the right arm, and the left wrist and forearm, with an additional graze wound to the right thigh. Her son suffered a shotgun wound to the face that wasn't life-threatening. Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger said investigators believe the bullet that hit Cody first passed through his mother. After the shooting, an officer asked over police radio whether Cody could be brought to the family members waiting outside. Instead, he would be rushed to Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital.
It's a toy gun. And then I was sitting next to my mother, and then we was sitting up there, and then the police didn't let us go to our rooms. So Korryn was gone, so he took caution. So
he tried to take you with him?
Huh?
He wanted you to go with him?
No, I wanted to stay with my mother.
No, but Korryn wanted you to go with him?
Yes.
What you say now?
No, I was just standing there. And then I wanted to have a new phone because he coming to give me a new phone. Oh,
so what happened? You ain't finished telling me the story.
So we sneak in the bathroom, and then okay. What have I said?
Take your time. Start from the beginning.
Okay. So the police kicked the door down, and then I was hiding in the closet. And then my mother got a gun out, and then I put in the closet, and then Korryn was hiding the door. So Carson was hiding the door with Swap. So my mother didn't want me to come out, so I come out, and then I had my camera. Because it's just home because I left it mine. So my mother said back off, and then she did say back up. So the police said we is back up, and then they started shooting. And I went in the couch. And then the police just took me with her. And she died. P.M.
So they shot my sister?
Yes.
And they shot you too?
Yes. Because they saw me run. And then they hurt my arm.
So they shot you on purpose?
Yes. The end.
I can't stay here if there's no love.
I thought she was getting crazy because number 2 is gone.
Cause I had enough of no love.
I think she.
After the initial smoke had cleared, Korryn's mother would go on to say she wished she was allowed to interact with her child, a move she feels could have saved her daughter's life.
I do feel like they didn't want to hurt her, but I don't feel like they exhausted all the means of negotiations.
In regards to her grandson Cody, Korryn's 5-year-old son, who was shot in the face and elbow, Rhonda in an interview said,
"The crazy thing is, he was shot in the right elbow of the arm holding the phone. Not to mention, Cody said they shot him purposely when he wouldn't put the phone down. I wasn't there, but my grandson is one intelligent little guy."
Cody is currently living with his father, Korryn Cunningham. A news platform she did an interview with, which is one of the main sources of information I use for this video, Rhonda says she rarely sees Cody, and that he even has experienced enormous grief at the loss of his mother. He has been conscious that others are also grieving. He checks in on Korryn's sisters, his aunts, to see how they're doing.
She would never do that. Before she would hurt her baby, she would jump in front of a bullet for him. She would not hurt her kid. And for them to keep portraying her as that kind of person is awful.
Instead of creation, your imagination is nothing without creation, just as possibility is nothing without the pencil. Just like life doesn't matter without minds.
Rhonda is now co-parenting Korryn's daughter, Carson, with the father, and honors Korryn by placing pictures of her around the home as a way for Carson to connect with her mother.
Oh my God, we have pictures everywhere. Pillowcases with her mommy's pictures on it, she can kiss them. She says, "Night night," and says, "Good morning, Mommy," in the morning. Whenever Carson sees a new photo of her beautiful mother, she becomes ecstatic. Carson is a highlight in my life. She's been my lifeline. If I couldn't get a hold of her, I would cease to exist, and I have an excellent support system, but just having a piece of Korryn with me all the time soothes my soul.
Rhonda recalls an intense conversation with Korryn 2 weeks before she was killed about the police.
"The police are going to kill me because I know too much."
"Aren't you afraid?"
"Afraid of what? Of dying? I ain't living if I'm afraid of dying."
"Are you prepared to be a martyr?"
"I'm prepared to die for what I believe in."
This is for anybody who want to know what I'm doing. I'm tired. But the devil at my door, and he's refusing to leave. I'm at peace. I'm in my home. I ain't trying to hurt nobody. I've never hurt anybody. And yeah, they've been quiet a while, so they plotting to come in here and disturb the peace here. They've already disturbed the peace. I'm not a criminal. People outside my door with guns that won't back off.
Yeah? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said there are people outside my door with guns who won't back off.
They have taken half of my family out of my home, and it's me and my son in here, and I'm not sure what is going on past that. But I'm just doing what I need to do to protect myself and my child.
Okay, and what is that you feel you need to do?
Excuse me?
What is it? What is it that you said that you are doing? What you feel you need to do to protect yourself and your son?
I'm just protecting me and him.
Okay.
Rhonda and her family attempted to charge officers involved in the shooting. However, on September 21st, 2016, it was announced that police officers who shot Korryn would not be subject to any charges.
She would never do that. Before she would hurt her baby, she would jump in front of a bullet for him. She would not hurt her kids. And for them to keep portraying her as that kind of person is awful.
Shannon Gaines is an aunt of 23-year-old Korryn Gaines. The young mother was fatally shot Monday when police say she threatened to kill officers during negotiations with a hostage team. Family members question the need for lethal force.
We see hundreds of videos where these people are taken into custody without harm. What was so different in this situation? If they truly felt like something was wrong with her, then address her then accordingly.
Family members confirm Gaines posted this to Facebook Monday while the standoff was going on. "Don't tell me what to do. I'm home," the post says. "Tell those gang members outside my door to go away from my home and family."
Why would they kill her over standing her ground in her own home? She wasn't shooting at them. She wasn't openly firing on the police officers. She was sitting in the floor of her apartment. She wasn't shooting her gun off at them. She wasn't shooting through the door.
Family says Gaines suffered a miscarriage after her arrest in March and blamed her encounter with Baltimore County police.
So why would she trust them now? Why would she trust them once they come into her house that they're not going to hurt her again?
New detail tonight. Court documents we've just obtained show that police initially used a key obtained from the landlord to open the door as they reported yesterday, but found a change. The new detail is that police then kicked in the door to gain entry. It was after that, the documents say, that police saw Gaines with the gun.
The vampire theory. Our blood reeks of royalty. They can smell it in the air. We're so used to our own scent, we cannot fathom what we bear. They know of our greatness. I'm just trying to taste it while others are trying to waste it, and the white man is trying to trace it. But even in trying to find what is truly beyond divine, they could never go back far enough. We're way beyond their time. Therefore, in the meantime, they hunt the queens and kings with crime. Used to hang us up with strings to trees and other things. Now they tote guns with beams and wrist rings. Same old ankle chains, still beating us the same. Ain't nothing changed. Except now they're trying to survive. Can't find any use for us alive, not knowing we can't die. So while they're chasing blood, snatching bodies, eating babies, and raping our minds by having sex with our kind, they can only become us with every thrust. I trust they only raise our army, and I trust that we are righteous.
The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU of Maryland, condemned the shooting, releasing a statement saying the police decided they needed to use deadly force to execute that warrant and needed to expose themselves to that known risk of deadly force being used on them, knowing that a 5-year-old child might be in the line of fire. Some news outlets have called into question why the Baltimore County Crisis Intervention Team was not deployed. Police say trained negotiators were involved but could not respond as to why that specific unit was not dispatched. The incident is noted as being further evidence of a trend of live streaming confrontations between civilians, specifically Black Americans, and police in the United States. A senior ACLU attorney questioned the request by Baltimore County Police to shut down Gaines' account and Facebook's decision to comply, stating that Facebook must exercise caution when dealing with requests by police to censor content. Artist and journalist Ferrari Shepard also criticized Facebook's involvement in the incident on Twitter, saying, Facebook helped Baltimore police kill Korryn Gaines in the dark. The corporate watchdog group Some of Us criticized Facebook for setting a precedent of censorship by orders of police, stating that the move is a threat to civil liberties owing to the current use of shareable videos on social media as an instrument in exposing police violence in the United States.
Pay for more than just out of pocket, because actually the citizens are going to pay with this. He's not even going to pay. He going home to his family. My family been destroyed.
I hope that Schellenberger is now second guessing his decision. I have no degree of faith that he would reconsider it.
The jury awarded no punitive damages. In a statement, County Attorney Mike Fields said, "A mother died, a child was unintentionally injured, and police officers were placed in mortal danger. By any account, this was a tragic situation. The county is disappointed with the verdict and is reviewing all of its options, including an appeal."
This win is for all of my sisters in the movement who have lost their children to police violence. Some of them have never received justice, either criminally or civil. I just want to tell them that this win is for them.
How many eyes do you have?
2, 3. 3.
Oh, okay. And where are they? Point to them. 1. Point to you. 1. And where's the other one? And where's the other one? Good job. All right, now, give me 5.
Once news outlets began reporting the shooting, protests and riots immediately sprung up around the country, the most violent of which occurred in the city of Baltimore, whose black residents, along with the rest of the nation, were still dealing with the local citizen Freddie Gray's murder at the hands of police, the murder of Philando Castillo out in Minnesota, and Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge.
On a police officer. 9 guns were seized as personal property during the arrests. Most of the protesters were from Louisiana.
In February 2018, a jury of 6 women awarded $37 million in damages to the Gaines family after finding that the first shot fired by Royce Rudy and killing Gaines was not reasonable and thus violated her civil rights. A statement from Baltimore County Government Attorney Mike Fields said the county was disappointed with the verdict and reviewing options, including an appeal. On March 19, 2018, Baltimore County filed an appeal.
Jurors found Baltimore County police officer Royce Ruby did not act reasonably when he shot and killed Korryn Gaines during a 6-hour armed standoff in August 2016. The jury awarded $32 million to Cody Gaines, Korryn's son, who was hit twice by bullets that ricocheted.
But this guy knowingly assassinated my daughter and injured my grandson to, I believe, beyond repair with post-traumatic stress.
For Cody, it means a lot. Now he's going to be able to do things and get the help that he really needs.
The jury also awarded $4.5 million to Gaines' daughter, Carson Courtney, and $300,000 each to Gaines' mother, father, and her estate. Ruby, cleared of criminal wrongdoing by Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger, was promoted after the shooting.
On February 14, 2019, Judge Mikey J. Norman dismissed the original complaint and subsequently rejected the award of over $37 million. The family has stated they would also file an appeal. On Wednesday, July 1, 2020, after appealing, an appeals court reinstated the original $38 million verdict and ruled it was for the jury to decide questions of fact, not Judge Norman.
Because I really am motherfucking tired. That's why.
Don't say.
Now that everything is said and done and this video quickly draws to its conclusion, I'd like to say a few things about everything I've learned about this case and Korryn specifically. Regardless of what you think, good, bad, right or wrong, I believe Korryn Gaines was braver than most men who claim to fight against racism and exploitation. Even braver than me, considering the fact I don't feel having a standoff with police in order to stop them from arresting me for a traffic stop was worth it. I know that if my family needed me to protect them from imminent harm, regardless of who the perpetrator was, even the police, I laid down my life for them. and be willing to take some too. It's unfortunate that Korryn decided to die on a hill unworthy of her sacrifice. Dying to prevent an arrest over a traffic ticket was a waste of her potential and extremely selfish to her family and children. But I'll also take into consideration that this took place in 2016.
In Baltimore police custody. The autopsy on this 25-year-old is now complete. The names of these officers involved in his arrest.
And when they do, things turn from bad to worse.
More than 100 protesters were arrested, most for defying orders.
In the middle of a point in time in America when our president was black, yet nearly on a weekly basis, sometimes multiple times a week, we witness the unpunished murdering of black adults and children by state-sponsored terrorists. A couple of these victims of police brutality were known personally by Korryn. Some were her direct family members. Korryn felt like many black Americans at that specific point in American history. We were willing to go to war with the strongest military in human history. It was becoming evident that black people had nothing to lose. Korryn being one of those people who had had enough. To Korryn, the refusal to submit to the state for something as minor as a driving ticket was the final straw. That ticket signified obedience to injustice. Allowing the police to come to her home, chain her, and take her away from her children signified slavery, as if she was on an auction block sold to the highest bidder of her debt, which was the ticket, and then stripped away from her family to be taken to another plantation, the prison. When I look at it through that lens, through that context, and not my personal view of my life as it is now, but through the eyes of Korryn, I understand why she decided to lose her life on that hill in front of her 5-year-old son. Korryn probably spent many nights explaining the evils of white supremacy and the police to her son, and they validated everything she told Cody about their evil ways by killing his mother right in front of his eyes and shooting him in the face.
Gods and goddesses of the land, rise above all man. Take your thrones hand in hand, for only together we must stand. Rise against the evils of this world. Chase out every no-minded girl and all the weak boys. No gods and goddesses, we have zero time for toys. Goddesses stand up, gods back up. It's time to tear up, clash up, beat down, rev up. Kings, queens from the Amexum, I know you're fed up.